Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana. I'm Reverend Larrye-Marie Heyl, and you've stepped into a community that is radically inclusive spiritual renegades who heal hearts and create community. We're so glad you decided to join us today, where our topic is Lent in a New Thought World. Let's begin our service with prayer. So we take a deep, nourishing breath. And we step into that place where we know the divine, that place where we connect with all that is good, with all that is loving and all that is kind, that divine beingness of love and joy and peace and ease, all that lives right within each of us. And what I know to be the truth is that each of us are here by divine appointment. There is some reason that we have decided to come and connect in this way. Whether it be the reading or the message or the music, there is something that is going to create a shift in each of us today so that we can live more spiritually, so that we can be more fully who we've come here to be. And I am so grateful. I'm grateful that you made that decision to join us. I'm grateful for this community and all that it means to me in my life. And I'm grateful to know that the God without is the God within each of us. And it's from all that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing that God has already called it good, already called it done, so I can just let it be. And we can affirm it together. And so it is. Join us in singing our opening song.
I am called to be a healer over all humanity. I am called to be a dreamer, believing what can be. I am called to be a maker, be an instrument of peace. I am called to be a giver of abundance I receive. I am called to be a prayer, living out the truth I see. I am called to be everything. I am called to be. Called to be the glory here on earth, so all might see all the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. I am the living, breathing God, and you are one in me. We are called to be. You are called to be a mother, to nurture family. You are called to be a brother, giving strength in times of need. You are called to be a neighbor, see a friend in all you need. You are called to be a leader, to build community. You are called to be a prayer, living out the truth we see. You are called to be everything. You are called to be. Called to be the glory here on earth, so all might see all the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. You are the living, breathing God, and you are one in me. We are called to be, and we We are called to be your kindness, set the broken-hearted free. We are called to be forgiveness, where maidens run too deep. We are called to be compassion, be the wind beneath each wing. We are called to make communion, only then can we succeed. We are called to be a prayer, living out the truth we see. We are called to be everything. We are called to be the glory here on earth all might see. All the love and all the beauty that shines in you and me. We are the living, breathing God, and we are one in me. We are called to be.
So this is our time for celebration and healing. Our time in our service where we celebrate life and we pray for people who desire prayer. We begin with celebration, so I invite you to say aloud, so that the whole universe can hear it, any event in your life for which you're grateful and joyful this week. And now we turn to the healing portion of our service. We're a community steeped in healing. So we pause now to pray for anyone who's not feeling the joy of life that we perhaps were just feeling. They're not feeling maybe that they have things to celebrate. And I truly love this part of our service because it's so in alignment with who we are. So let's pray. God is all there is. God is that love and that peace and ease and grace and freedom and so much more. And as an individual expression of the divine, each of us have within us all of these qualities of spirit. They're available to us right here and right now. And what I know to be the truth is that there are people on this planet right now that aren't embracing those qualities. So we stop for a moment and we create a circle of love. And in this community, we place in that circle of love anyone that we recognize within ourselves or for someone else that might need prayer. So I'm going to pause, and I just invite you to say aloud the names of all of those people that you want to include in our circle of love. I know that God is right where each of us happens to be, right here and right now, moving in, through, and as each of us. And I know that the divine has heard every name that we spoke, either in our hearts or aloud. And what I'd like you to do now is pause again, and from your heart to all of theirs, just send out love, knowing that the divine knows exactly how to distribute it. And what I know to be the truth is that anything that needs to be released within each of these people is being released now, be it disease of the mind, of the body, of the soul. I know that anything that's seeking to come forth and be lifted up can be lifted up. And that this release and this lifting up is healing whatever's called to be healed. I know that each of these people is feeling more deeply their connection with the divine right now. I have evidence of that, and I know it to be the truth for everyone that we placed in our circle. So I'm so grateful to know that the God without is the God within me. The God without is the God within every person in our circle, every person in this community, and every person on this planet. And I'm grateful for that power of community prayer and what it means to the uplifting of the people on this planet. So it's from all that gratitude that I release this prayer into the law of mind, spirit, and action, because I know that the divine, in all of its wisdom, has already called all of this good. Any heavy lifting that needs to be done to heal whatever needs to be healed, the divine is already taken care of. So I can just know it's already done, say amen, and together we can affirm it. And so it is. I invite you to join me for our community affirmation. My life's purpose is already within me, and I am committed to its unfoldment. I am here by divine appointment to join in a community that cares for one another, to be in a place that transforms people's lives, to remember the highest truth about myself, to learn spiritual tools for personal transformation, and thus to make the world a more joyful place.
Just one life to live. The gifts I have, great and small, I give them all. I give, simply, purely, from my soul I give. Here I am, a vessel to be used. Whatever spirit calls to me, I will be, I will be.
Now is the time for a brief meditation, breathing in and connecting with the divine within you. Breathing in, becoming present to this very moment. And as you breathe out, releasing anything that's not serving you right here and now. And as we continue to breathe, being aware of the presence of the divine, just release anything that's asking to be let go of. And I invite you during this time of meditation to step fully into your own spirituality. Recognize that whatever spirit needs of you is precisely what you're seeking. Allow yourself to be that vessel to be used so that all your gifts, great and small, you can give freely. Imagine that you are allowing love to lead you and opening your heart to serve. Dennett Mears Jones, in The Art of Being, wrote, "Your entire life is a sacred experience. So you can go through life looking for an experience out there, or you can awaken to the fact that you are a spiritual experience, wherever you are and whatever you're doing." So during this time, as Bill continues to play, awaken to a world in which you feel connected to the divine. A world in which who you are and who you decide to be is exactly what the divine expects of you. Imagine a world in which, wherever you are, you feel love and joy and bliss, and whatever you're doing feels right and blessed. So as we come back from this time of silence, bring back that sense of connection you had with the divine, that knowledge of who you are as a spiritual renegade, stepping fully into all you define to be your way of loving and your way of connecting with the indwelling presence and with the consciousness of a world filled with acceptance and with love.
A vessel to be used, whatever spirit calls to me, I will be, I will be, I will be. Here I stand. My heart is here to serve. Wherever love is leading me, I will go, I will go, I will go. Whatever spirit needs of me, I will be, I will be, I will be. Wherever love is leading me,
morning, CSL Southeast Louisiana. I'm Reverend Kimberly Hawkins with our reading for this morning, which is from Living a Gentle, Passionate Life by Robert J. Wicks. It's called A Quiet Little Place to Breathe Deeply. I once remember walking past a vast, well-developed English garden. Stopping, I could see the roses, unruly flowering bushes, and established deep green ground cover. Moss and heather, trellises, and a pond with a bubbling waterfall filled with koi and flowering water lilies made me feel good just to be there. I felt at home, peaceful. Then off in the distance, I could see a little sign stuck in the ground. It was near one of the entrances to a back path. I was intrigued by what it might say. When I walked over, I had to get on my knees to read it. The message was simple. There's always music in the garden, amongst the trees, but your heart must be quiet to hear it. Silent places allow us to breathe deeply, to take in little messages of self-respect from our inner selves. They give us the gentle space to feel the basic spiritual themes that will put us back on the path when we're lost. They help us, like the young boy Samuel in the Bible, to listen to our God speak softly to us in a small voice that too much anxiety and inner noise can often drown out. Quiet places are not simply there for escape from our crazy lives, although occasionally it's a wise thing to run away. Instead, little places of silence allow us to take a step back, to begin a mini sabbatical so that we can sit, rest, think, and reassess. Just listen. This need is truly felt when we are emotionally and spiritually exhausted and realize that we have fallen off the path of single-heartedness and simplicity. It helps us see the truth about our condition. When we fall prey to compulsive activity and are running to our grave with no sense of serenity or clarity. And finally, for reflection. Finding a place of silence and solitude requires more than separating ourselves from the company of others. We can go off to a quiet room and yet be bombarded by a cacophony of inner voices vying for attention. How have you sought or found quiet places of true solitude in your life? Why are such escapes necessary for a balanced life? What is the lure of silence? What frightens you about it? Why are you simultaneously drawn to and resistant to silence and solitude? Good questions for all of us to reflect upon.
I'm reaching out to feel the infinite. I'm reaching out to know the divine. I'm reaching out to feel the infinite, yet forever is already mine. I'm already there, I'm already home, I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm already there, I'm already home, I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm going deep to feel the infinite, I'm going deep to know the divine. I'm going deep to feel the infinite, yet forever is already mine. I'm already there, I'm already home, I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm already there, I'm already home, I'm already safe in my eternal soul. I'm rising up to feel the infinite, I'm rising up to know the divine. I'm rising up to feel the infinite, yet forever is already mine. I'm already there, I'm already home, I'm already safe in my eternal soul.
I want to thank our CSL music team and also Donna Mitchell for the music today. And we're beginning our March series, The Lion and the Lamb. And our topic for today is Lent in a New Thought World. Because it's a new series, I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to be the lion and the lamb, because both terms really apply to Christ. Spiritually, the lion and the lamb refer to two aspects of Christ. The lion being that conquering force, that lion of the tribe of Judah, and the lamb being the Christ who was slain. As the Lion of Judah, Jesus fulfills that prophecy that was made in Genesis, the coming of a Messiah. And as the Lamb, Jesus was the perfect and ultimate sacrifice, so grounded in what he believed and what his purpose was, that he was willing to give up his life. So this month, we're focusing on how to fulfill our own prophecies, how to know exactly who we are, how to focus on what we've come here to be, and know that it's God's great pleasure to give us the kingdom so we don't need to suffer. Imagine if everyone on the planet embraced being all they could be spiritually. If each of us took that 40-day Lent journey inward, if each of us embraced our own spirituality, giving up something that was keeping us from being our best spiritual self, or just starting to observe who we are and how we're behaving. And if each of us started right now planting those spiritual seeds of connection with the divine so that each day on the planet we became more connected, what would the world look like then? So each week I have a question, and your question for this week is this. What is the one choice that you can make today to bring about your best spiritual self? Starting now to plant seeds of connection to the divine. One more time. What is the one choice that you can make today to bring about your best spiritual self? Starting today to plant seeds of connection to the divine. Today's topic is Lent in a New Thought World. Now, Lent is historically the time between Ash Wednesday, and for those of us in the South, that's the day after Mardi Gras, and when Easter arrives. It's 40 days, but you might be thinking, well, hey, that's 6 weeks and 4 days, that's 46 days. But in historic times, Sundays were a time when people were not allowed to fast because it was supposed to be a feast day. So if you take away the 6 days of Sundays, we have a 40-day time period. There's great significance in 40 days in the Bible. And actually, 40 days is mentioned 157 times. 40 days is typically a period of testing, of trial, or of probation. Moses lived 40 days in Egypt and then spent 40 years in the desert, at which time God actually chose him to lead his people out of slavery. The Great Flood was 40 days. Did you know that? And before starting his ministry, Jesus spent 40 days in the desert. And it's that 40 days that we want to talk about today, that 40 days that Jesus spent connecting with his spiritual self before he began his ministry. Sernest Holmes says this: Spirit is at the center of each one of us. To it we may come for guidance, and from it we may draw both inspiration and the power to live, stand, walk, or sit. So what I'm inviting you to do today in this time of Lent is to tap into the Spirit that is at the center of each of us. To take the time between now and Easter to draw that inspiration that allows you to more deeply be your own spiritual self. So the question might be, what do you give up? Or possibly, how can you just learn to be a better observer of who you are? When I was young and observing Lent from the Catholic perspective, it always seemed like I was giving up something. And yes, I knew the story of Jesus in the desert and him being tempted, all these temptations placed in front of him. And when I gave up chocolate or sweets for Lent, I can tell you there felt like there were plenty of temptations. And in our household, Sunday wasn't a day off. So by the time Easter rolled around, I was really happy to get those treats in my basket. Now, as an adult, I understand more deeply the concept of Lent, that concept of a time to go deep within ourselves and find our best spiritual self. You know, it's not necessary to give up something. Rather, it's more about walking in the light of the divine. Think about that for a minute. About noticing what is holding us back from being our best spiritual self. So I invite you right now to think of something that might be holding you back from being your best spiritual self. Some examples might be watching too much TV, overeating, dualistic thinking, skipping your meditation time just because you're too busy, obsessing on your own flaws. Hey, that's a really good one. Procrastinating. Anyway, you get the idea. Think of one right now. Do you have one? Great. So now ask yourself, would it help to replace that habit with a spiritual habit? Maybe reading a spiritual book instead of watching TV. Or maybe taking a walk in nature. Because that's how you give up something for Lent. You give up the time wasters and replace them with something that is useful. Now, I'm well aware that a lot of my friends are probably saying, as soon as I try to give up something, I think about it constantly. And I know when I go overboard about trying to watch what I eat, I then become obsessed with food. So for those of you who might be in that group of people or in that camp of, I don't like giving up something, I'm going to invite you to just become the observer of your life. Instead of giving up something, make it your job during these times of Lent to just observe more closely who you're being and how you're behaving on a daily basis. And just start noticing throughout the day whether your habits are enhancing who you are as a person or detracting from who you are as a person. Notice when you're wasting time. Identify the behavior or the trait and just be observer of it rather than trying to banish it. By making that decision to engage in watching those behaviors that aren't so healthy, we can shift them into behaviors that are more healthy. And it creates a sense of being a witness to our real self. And when we hold those behaviors up to the light, we notice that as we shine the light on them, we might actually recognize that we're no longer engaged in doing something that's not really supporting our being our best self. You know, you have 86,400 seconds every day to use however you want to use them. And even if we take away that 8 hours that we're supposed to be getting for sleep, we still have 56,000 seconds or more. So when we start to notice those behaviors where we waste our time or where we are not in alignment with who we are, and I'm not talking about those times where we just relax. So if you watch TV to relax, great. But if you watch TV and aren't really engaged in what's going on, are there better ways that you might be able to use your time? Okay. So how do you really want to be? And how do you want to go about observing all of these behaviors and using this time of Lent to become a more spiritual person? I notice that when I become the observer of who I am, I can find those behaviors of how I really want to be, and I can learn to let go of some of those behaviors that aren't serving me. When we become aware of the incongruences we have in our lives, we can make choices which are better for ourselves. We can choose life rather than just allowing life to happen to us. You know, there are many deaths of unconscious actions that get in the way of our spiritual life. Wayne Dyer, in Staying on the Path, wrote, "Create an inner harmony where your living soul guides your spiritual behavior, rather than having your soul always come in second place." Create an inner harmony. Don't have your soul come in second place. Think about that for a moment. Do you really want your soul taking second place? I doubt it. The Upanishads have a great phrase. The silent one, the knower, ever resting in us, may walk, stand, sit, lie down, and do anything at its sweet will. The silent one that rests in us may do anything. Think about that power. So right now, make a commitment to observe that behavior that came up for you earlier when I asked that question. And as the reading today suggests, get quiet enough to hear the music in the garden amongst the trees. Get quiet enough to hear the music in the garden amongst the trees. There's a story about a young lady who told her mom that the next time she came to visit, she wanted to take her to see this daffodil garden. And the mom didn't know what all the fuss was about, but she reluctantly agreed. And the day they set out, it was kind of foggy and dreary, and her mom was real tempted to turn around and just give it up, but her daughter kept saying, "You'll never forgive yourself if you don't come see this garden." So they drove for about 20 minutes, turned down this little gravel road, and pulled up into this little churchyard, and there was a sign that said Daffodil Gardens this way. And so they walked along the path, and when they turned a corner, they saw this amazing daffodil garden. It looked as if someone had taken a great vat of gold and poured it down the side of the mountain. The flowers were planted in all of these majestic, swirled-looking patterns, each color having their own space. And it was breathtaking. And the mom said, "Well, who has done this?" And her daughter said, "Well, it's actually the lady that lives in that house over there." And so they started walking towards the house, and there was a sign that said, "Things you want to know about the garden." First answer was 50,000 bulbs. Second answer was one at a time by one woman, 2 hands, 2 feet, and very little brain. And the third answer was, began in 1958. And immediately, the mom began to understand this daffodil principle. They thought about this woman who had never met, that had created this garden that was so majestic and so beautiful, and she had done it one bulb at a time. After reading that, the mom was thinking about all the beauty and joy that this one lady had created by transforming this land on this mountainside to such majestic beauty. She had actually changed the world in which she lived and changed the world for the better for all the people that could see it. This became the daffodil principle, moving towards your goals one step at a time, and often baby steps, one bulb at a time, until there was 50,000 bulbs planted on this mountainside. When we multiply tiny things and tiny actions that take just a little bit of time, we often find that we can accomplish magnificent things. And on the way home, the mom said to the daughter, you know, it makes me sad in some ways what I might have been able to do with my life if I had just started doing something years ago. And the daughter, being very wise, just looked at her and said, start tomorrow. Now, I might have said start today, but think about it. Whatever our lives have been like, we can start tomorrow to build our own daffodil garden, whatever it looks like, to plant our own seeds of connection with beauty and magnificence. Imagine how our lives might be if we just began to replace all of those ineffective behaviors that we were talking about earlier with ones that create a deeper connection with the divine. Can you imagine if each day you just took a little bit of time to do something that would make you more connected with that divine love? Imagine the great vat of love that would pour over your world, pour over the landscape of your soul. What would that look like? How majestic would the patterns of love that you built create a more spiritual life for you? Sernest Holmes, in 10 Ideas That Make a Difference, wrote this: there is an inner life into which we may plunge, an inner consciousness in which we may bathe. And as water purifies itself by flowing, so our inner realizations of the flow of life through us purifies the stagnant pools of our fears and doubts. Let's each take that plunge into our inner life, into that consciousness which bathes us in the realization of the flow of life through us. So let's participate in Lent in a New Thought way. Let's take the 40-day journey into being our best spiritual selves. Let's enhance our own spirituality, give up something, or just become merely an observer of your behaviors. And start right now to plant your own garden of connection with the divine. One day, one step at a time. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it that today I make the one choice to easily and willingly bring about my best spiritual self, starting now to plant seeds of connection to the divine? I challenge you this week to just spend some time each day remembering to take the rest of Lent and shift those behaviors that aren't supporting you into ones that support you to be your best spiritual self. So let's pray. We just move into a time of connecting with that oneness of the divine, with that beauty and that majestic wonder with the intelligence, the freedom, the joy, the love that God is. And knowing that as our divine inheritance, all of that lives and moves right within us. And what I know to be the truth is that our own spiritual path can be shifted at any moment in time by our just connecting with the love of the divine, by our recognizing that love that is right within us, by that beauty that lives within us, by us just making little shifts to become our more spiritual higher self. So I am grateful. I am grateful to know that all of us have the ability to plant a daffodil garden in some way in our life. That all of us have that capability of making our soul first, not allowing it to take second place. And it's from all that gratitude that I just release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth. That who we are makes a difference in the world. That what we do can create beauty for ourselves and others. And that God has already called all of this good, so I can just let it be. Say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is.
From the love of your spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal, bless, and prosper. It does good work in the world and returns to me, multiplied abundantly. From the love of your spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal, bless, and prosper. It does good work in the world and returns to me, multiplied abundantly. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
You can find all of the information for donating at our website at CSL Southeast LA.org. You can use the donate button there, or you can use Zella or Venmo at 225-287-8887. You can text your amount to 1-225-320-5100. Or you can mail your donation to CSL Southeast Louisiana, care of Reverend Larrye-Marie Heyl, 445 Magnolia Wood Avenue, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70808. We thank you for your tithes and donations, and we appreciate the fact that you are giving gifts that are flowing out to everyone we touch. I know you're going to enjoy this beautiful song by Donna Mitchell. It's called Holy Healing Energy.
Holy healing energy of God is flowing through me. Holy healing energy of God is flowing through me, flowing through me. we go. Holy healing energy of God is flowing through me. Holy healing energy of God is flowing through me. Flowing through me. Flowing through me. Holy healing energy. Flowing through me. Flowing through me. Holy healing energy. Joy, holy healing energy of joy is flowing through me. Holy healing energy of joy is flowing through me. Flowing through me. Flowing through me. Holy healing energy. Flowing through me. Flowing through me, holy healing energy. Holy healing energy of God, of peace, of love, flowing through me, you, and the whole wide world.
So next week, we're going to continue on our journey of the lion and the lamb. And the topic is your inner life. And we'll be continuing with this concept of how we can shift to be our best spiritual selves. Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to like us on Facebook at Center for Spiritual Living, Southeast Louisiana. And follow us on YouTube. Our channel is CSL SELA. You can also join us for our community time. You have a little bit of time to go grab coffee or tea and maybe a snack. Then dial in and join us for a live discussion. The conference line, which we use every week, is 515-604-9000. So put it in your phone with the participation code 475220. We begin with the discussion of the service and follow up with a process to help you dive more deeply into the concept of the day. We hope you'll join us. So in closing, just remember, Disney claims to be the happiest place on earth, but we at the Center for Spiritual Living in Southeast Louisiana are definitely the most joyful. And until we meet again, may you be wrapped in the arms of love and kindness. And may you practice Lent in a new thought world by finding those behaviors that aren't serving your highest spiritual self and learning how to take small actions that create for you a divine connection that paints a beautiful, majestic field on your soul. And when you do that, you'll feel very much alive.
Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive, alive forevermore. Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit is alive forevermore. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah. My spirit is alive, 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 alive. alive forevermore. Alive, alive, alive forevermore. My spirit is alive. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah.